Nail by Ian Jones and Andy Edwards. Episode 7, The Digging. Sunday, 27th of September 1936. Nail is up early to dig Mrs. Cooper's grave. He has had a restless night after his flashbacks watching the rugby, but is resigned to his task. What he is unaware of is the confrontation that lies ahead of him. Was up early this morning. I went home after the game and, lit the fire. Didn't have much of an appetite. I had a bowl of leftover cowl for my tea. And then, just after I'd tidied the table, there was a banging at the door. Johnny, 18 months, stood on the porch. Nice chap, Johnny. Boards up on Tea Glass Farm. Helps Howard with the milking, he does. Drinks like a trout, though. We were in the trenches together. Accident he had, left him with half a year. The way he goes on about it, you'd think he'd been caught in a bomb blast with some shrapnel taking half his ear off. But no, what it was, we had a little dog in the trenches, lovely little Jack Russell. Good little ratter, called him Jack. I told Johnny not to tease him, not to play so roughly with him. Well, Johnny learnt his lesson the hard way. Jack went and bit half his ear off, didn't he? So Johnny, 18 months. A year and a half, see? 18 months. He was feeling run down, he was. Needed a tonic. Wanted to borrow a drop of Cambrian specific. Cure for all. That's what it says. Everyone round here swears by it. I gave him the bottle. 1 teaspoonful now, Johnny, I said. It's powerful stuff. He nodded and set off. The rest of the night I sat and stared at the flames dancing about till I fell asleep. Woke up in the chair this morning with an empty jar of pickles on my lap. The sun rising over Llanrwch Woods woke me up. I had to be up early anyway, got a grave to dig. Should have done it yesterday, but went to the rugby. Glad I went, but got to get on now though, before the morning service. I put my shovel and pick over my shoulder. They belonged to my Uncle Jacob when he used to dig the graves. Got the pick head from Cummin and Colliery when it closed. I put a new handle on it on Friday. I've wrapped a piece of tripe and vinegar in a newspaper. Keep me going. Bit of onion in there too, gives it a bit of blass. I put it in the pocket of my coat and set off towards the church. Although I'm upset about Mrs. Cooper, I wouldn't have anyone else dig her grave. It's the least I can do, and it won't be a chore. Proud to dig it. Aye, proud, that's all. And at least it's dry. I've dug a few in the wind and the rain, and it don't make it any easier, I can tell you. No, the mud weighs a lot more when it's wet. Sticks to the bloody shovel and all. The streets are empty as I walk towards the church. Everyone's probably sleeping off the after effects of beating blind yesterday. 17 years of waiting is worth a celebration, I suppose. Good for them, yeah, good for them. I open the gate of the graveyard and sit on the buttress of the church wall. Ugh, I've buried a few in here. I walk over to see my Uncle Jacob. Always say hello to him before I start. Taught me all he knew. Monkey see, monkey do, he'd say to me. I dug graves before minding the war. German graves. When I was a prisoner. It's a job. Bits of bodies and lumps of flesh. Didn't know what you were burying half the time. A great man, Uncle Jacob. I doff my cap to you, sir. There's Jimmy Candles over there. Died of a runny nose, they reckon. And Rhys Tum, the murderer. Strangled his dog, he did. Dafydd Mynydd Mawr, whoa, that was a heavy coffin. Nearly as big as Brintnant Lass he was. Right, best get on then. I'm going to get stuck in. I love digging the graves. Empties your mind. Forget your troubles. Get a good sweat on. Get lost in it. You know what I mean. What's that noise over there? Oh, it's the Sunday school kids gathering on the steps of the Memorial Hall. They think they're going to the Gower. They'll be lucky. I don't think they'll see Ernie this morning. He'll have had a few last night, poor Dabs. Bit hungry now I am. I'll go and sit on Johnny up and down. He was a good friend. Had a club foot. Up and down he went. Sniper's nightmare. Pour out a cup of tea into the lid of my flask. Nothing quenches a thirst like a cup of tea. Oh, that vinegar gives the tripe a lovely tang. Ooh. My father ate tripe every day of his life that he could remember. Good for you, he'd say. Good for you. Mind you, he died when he was 42. Makes you think, doesn't it? I wrapped the tripe back in the paper and put it under my coat. I've dug that grave over there twice. Not the only one I've done twice, but a bit different to the others. Usually it's, Mrs. So-and-so, beloved wife of Mr. So-and-so, together at last, in sleep eternal, or, Mr. What's his name, loving father and husband to Mrs. What's her name, united in sacred peace, No, that one's different. Mrs. Priest, Edna, I've got both her husbands in there, waiting for her. The way she looks at Howard deaf, I may have to open it up again before she passes. Poor old Howard. There was 3 in the bed, and the little one said, ha ha ha. Strange though, both of them dying of stomach pains. I'm not saying it's suspicious, mind. No, just an odd coincidence. Harold was only 25 when he went. No age at all, really. And Albert only 40. Got to make the most of the time you got. Life's too short to waste on worrying about what hasn't happened. Change the things you need to change and accept the things you can't. That's what the Reverend Penderyn James said. Accept the things you cannot change. Aye, wise words. That was a sad funeral though. Harold's. Ooh. His mother jumped into the grave on top of the coffin. Inconsolable, tore her apart, it did. She was dead herself about 6 months later, hung herself, Llanllwch Woods. Poor woman, couldn't go on. Aye, make the most of your time you got, Better get on. Morning, Hobart, says Claude. Only one person calls me Hobart in the village. I look up from my digging. Morning, Claude. I hadn't noticed he wasn't standing at the graveside. Thought I'd come to see where she'll sleep. You'll miss her, Claude? Aye, more than anyone knows. And he stares into the empty grave. You okay, Claude? Yes, thanks, Hobart. Just thinking, remembering, Niall, man, you got to help me, man, I'm in a state, man. Johnny, 18 months, has stumbled through the gate into the graveyard. What the hell is wrong, Johnny? I drunk it, man, I drunk it all, Niall. All what, man? The Cambrian specific, man. Oh, for God's sake, Johnny, 1 teaspoon, I said. I know, man. He falls to his knees. I see it double, Niall. Thought it was slow gin, see? Drunk the bottle. Oh, my guts are in bits. He gags and throws up onto the grass in front of him. Help me, Niall, man. You need to go home, Johnny, and get someone to sit with you. Take me home, Niall, man. Take me home. Get the doctor, man. He falls forward into his own vomit. Oh, dear, dear, dear. All right, Johnny, I'll get you home, boy. I'll do it, Hobart, says Claude. You've got important work to do here. Oh, thanks, Claude, you're a saviour. Give Dr. Clow a knock on your way past, perhaps he'll help. Shall do, Hobart, shall do, says Claude. He helps Johnny to his feet and puts his arm around him to help him balance. Oh, thank you, Neil, says Johnny. Thank you. And then he groans loudly. He's a gentleman, that Claude, I tell you. Aye, a real gentleman. And a real gentleman. Back to my digging. This all won't empty itself. I'm soon back in the swing of it, and it takes me much less time to finish than I thought. I throw my shovel out of the grave. That's me. Tired, satisfied, job well done. She'll be at peace in here. Thought I'd find you here, Neil, says Die Slug. I look up from the grave. Die Slug has appeared from somewhere. Oh, for God's sake, Die, I'm digging a grave. Let it go, will you? It might end up being your grave now in a minute. Die, it's a graveyard, man. Show some respect, will you? There you go again. Show some respect. Show some respect. He's mimicking my voice and taunting me. He didn't show my boy any respect. You didn't show my wife any respect, did you? Well, she's learned some now the hard way. And now it's your turn. Get up here. Or are you gonna hide in that hole until your monkey arrives? He's talking about bringing Aunt Lassie, is? You need to learn a lesson, Neil, and I'm gonna be your teacher. Now get yourself up here. I hike my way up out of the grave. I'm not fighting, I say. In a graveyard, Die, it's sacred ground. Well, let's go down the river then. I don't care where I give you a beating. The ship, the graveyard, the riverbank, no difference to me. We walk through the graveyard and down the path towards the river. We take off our shirts, square up for a few seconds. Die charges while throwing a wild punch and grabs me around the waist. We grapple for a few seconds and fall to the floor. At least you fight back, Neil. Margaret was out like a light with one punch. I had to drag her into the kitchen by her hair so Verdun wouldn't see how pathetic she is. Up to this point, I am a reluctant participant in this encounter, but wife beaters boil my blood, and the red mist comes down and I snap. I feel a surge of rage and energy. I manage to roll him onto his back and get my knee tight in under his chin and down on his throat. You're a coward, Die Slug! He struggles to free himself, but I land 3 or 4 heavy blows on his face and head. His eyelid opens up and the blood runs down the side of his face and underneath his ear. He stops struggling, but I'm not finished. 5, 10, 20 punches and the blood splatters across my fists and clothes and all over my face. The more times I hit him, the more times I want to hit him. I put my hands round his throat. Kill or be killed. Kill or be killed. Oh. I let go of his throat and roll onto the grass, shaking, gasping for breath, my head pounding. I stare up at the clouds. Oh God, they're moving fast. Die Slug lies motionless next to me. Oh, I get to my feet, walk back to the graveyard and collect my things. I don't look back. I pass a few familiar faces on my way home, on their way to the morning service. They can all see the blood, but no one says a word. I sit in my cottage by the fire. I look at the blood on my hands. I sit in my cottage by the fire. I think about the blood on my hands.